Howdy, thanks so much for having me and for being here. My name's Alistair Hayden. I'm currently an assistant professor of practice at Cornell University, and before this, I was a division chief in the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services. So here to talk a little bit about some more disaster-flavored One Health items. And so it's going to be about wildfire smoke and how we can protect ourselves and our communities. And just a quick shout out, I love working with our extension colleagues, and I'll highlight Adam Hughes, the last name on the list here, is one of our extension colleagues who we've been doing a lot of work on wildfire smoke with, and we're here to support if you have any questions or want to talk through wildfire smoke or disasters. So you've been staring at this picture here, and you probably have a guess what it is, but in case not, I'll just start labeling things here. We've got clouds, we've got some wildfire smoke plumes up there in Canada, and then of course, we've got a smoke plume covering New York State and the region here. And so this is a satellite image on June 6th, 2023. So the first really, really smoky day of that smoke wave we experienced a couple of years ago. Wildfires are kind of a quintessential One Health issue. So they burn through vegetation and then, of course, anything else that's in their path. But healthy ecosystems actually usually need some amount of fire. And that's most famously true out west in the California ecosystems, but there are ecosystems in our biomes out here. The Pine Barrens ecosystem is the most famous one that needs lots of wildfire. Both here in New York and New Jersey, but even some of the hardwood ecosystems do need fire just way less frequently. We are in an era where wildfires are really exploding. And so this is a figure from a recent publication that kind of shows the change. So the y-axis is the amount of, it's a schematic. This is not actual data, but it represents actual data. So the y-axis is showing the average acres burned each year, and then the x-axis is showing us time over the last several hundred years. And you can see that in the present, there is starting to be an uptick in the acreage burned by wildfires. And this is because our ecosystems are getting out of balance. They're no longer healthy. And so one reason for this is climate change. And I see a bunch of comments in the chat. Okay, that's not things I need to answer. Sorry about that. So climate change is one of the reasons, but there's several other reasons that are commonly referenced by folks who study this. So we have more people moving into high-risk areas. So about 80% of wildfires in the US are actually started by humans. Sometimes that's intentional, but most usually that's unintentional. It can be something as simple as parking a hot car on dry grass. Wildfires start for all sorts of reasons. And then a really big one that's shown on this graph is fire suppression policies. So actually our policies since the late 1800s have been to put out wildfires. And again, ecosystems need those wildfires. And so by suppressing them, we are causing the ecosystems to be unhealthy. And then that is leading to this increase that now we're seeing in the frequency and intensity of fires. So again, this is a classic One Health issue because there's a feedback between human and ecosystem health. And just want to say the future will be smokier. So this is why we want to talk about wildfires as a public health emergency. So as you probably have personally experienced, I assume most people at this point have lived through a smoke plume regardless of where it is that you live. You might have experienced some of these annoying, irritating symptoms that are associated with wildfire smoke, but wildfire smoke can actually exacerbate more serious health conditions. So asthma can be associated with cardiovascular disease and infectious diseases as well. And we see increases in emergency room visits and actually mortality. And this is not, this is during wildfire smoke waves. So there's additional health impacts in the long term that are still only just being studied, but these health impacts are all things that can happen while the smoke is still in the air. So what I really want to focus on today is how to, because you all work with communities, Your frontline worker is important for getting information to your local communities. I want to share with you what I understand to be some of the best practices for protecting from wildfire smoke in case you get a question about this. So it basically boils down to three things: getting good data, and then knowing how to protect yourself and protect your community. So the best way to get data, and the only way we recommend, is through this wonderful website, fire.airnow.gov. And this basically shows air quality for the whole United States, and it's got some extra data that makes it most useful for tracking wildfire smoke plumes. And they keep changing the formatting, and it is a federal data site, so we'll see how long it remains active. But to get all the data, what I recommend you do is click the gear in the upper right corner, and that'll let you turn on some additional data layers that are currently hidden by default. And so I usually just go in and turn everything on because I'm a big old nerd and I want to see all the data. So this is what it looks like. The last one I was showing was a less smoky day. This is a smokier day, and I'm showing New York State here. The big circles are official EPA monitors. So these are really serious air quality monitoring stations that are established by the federal EPA as well as its state, local, and tribal partners. And these are actually defining your official air quality for your region. And so you can see across New York State, there's only something like 15 of those big official monitors. So then we have the smaller dots, and this is why I like turning on all the layers. These are independent sensors, kind of community science. So these are things that anyone can go out and purchase, and I'll talk a little bit more about them in a second. They're lower quality data than the official ones, but they can be very helpful for figuring out, for example, where the edges of a smoke plume are. And then the gray areas are smoke plumes, and these are observed by satellites. And it's a little hard to see here because this picture is all in smoke plume. So I'll just back up one. And on this map, you can see that there's a gray smoke plume covering part of the United States. And the smoke plumes, it's not necessarily smoke at ground level. It could be a mile above you. So just because there's a plume overhead doesn't mean you're breathing the smoke. So about these commercial sensors, we worked with our state cooperative extension here, local health departments, and one tribal nation to distribute some of these commercial sensors to some of the rural areas that were further from established sites. So we're working on promoting health statewide, and we noticed that there were gaps, especially in the rural areas, which is what this ugly yellow shading is. I really need a better figure for this. But we provided sensors to our partners, and then also some training and assistance on installation and using the data. And in case you're interested in these, the ones we used were purple layer sensors, which are about $300. We got a grant to fund this. And the reason we chose them was because these sensors, once you set them up, can actually send data to that official federal website. And so these small dots that you're seeing on the official federal website are data from these community established sensor stations. And they are working on getting more companies, air quality monitors, able to feed into that. So not trying to just promote one company here, that's just the one that I have familiarity with. And I saw recently that there's another company called Clarity who now their sensors also feed to the site. All right, I want to really focus on different data sources for this, for making decisions about air quality, because this is one of the primary questions that we get during a smoke wave. There are so many sources of data out there, and they can say conflicting things and lead to a lot of confusion. So the only official air quality data comes from airnow.gov. And if you go there, you'll see a little dial like this. And this is, again, a federal website, and it's pulling the data from those official federal monitors. And it's showing a couple things here. So the first is, the first I'll point to is at the bottom. So today's AQI is a 24-hour average AQI. And it's important to note that this is a 24-hour average. because that doesn't necessarily let you know what is going on right now. So for example, there could be really, really bad air quality while you're asleep, and then you wake up and then the air is fine. And so then that average over the 24 hours could look really, really bad, but your experience was actually while I was outside walking the dog, everything was fine. So when we're looking at 24-hour average AQI, what we are recommending for decision making based on that is especially decisions that might occur over the course of a day. So you can see they've got tomorrow's forecast. And so if you're thinking about, should I change or modify my summer camp or activities for my outdoor activities for tomorrow, the 24-hour AQI is good. So again, this is great. It's official high quality data, but it doesn't reflect what's going on right now. So the other thing you'll see on this dial is what they're calling the nowcast AQI, and that's the dial part of this, the good. And that is really to give you more information about what your air quality is right now. And so that's if you're asking questions about like, should I go walk the dog right now? That is the data that you should be using, and that's less appropriate for the decisions about tomorrow. So again, good for right now. But then both of these are good because they're official data, but they come from monitors that might not be that close to your location, especially if you're in a rural area. And so the other place to get data from are these commercial sensors, which you can view through that map. Or if you get these sensors, usually they come with their own data readout. And so these are great for checking local air quality trends. So you can, for example, yourself observe, oh, it was really bad an hour ago, but it seems to be getting better. So maybe right now is when I should pop out and take the dog for a walk. But one thing I really want to warn against with these commercial sensors is they are less accurate. And so the numbers that they actually report out, especially during a smoke wave, can be off by a huge factor, like a factor of 5 or so. And so you might observe that your readout is going to say something different than the official data. And usually that's because your sensor is just doesn't have the same level of accuracy, especially in really bad air quality, as the official data. So I only recommend those for trends. The really good decision making should come from the official data sources. And just to connect this back to the fire and smoke map, I'm sorry, it's small on the right here, but the nowcast AQI is going to show up as the big dots on the fire and smoke map, and the commercial sensors are going to show up as the small dots on that fire and smoke map. All right, so once you have the data about your air quality, the next question is, what do you actually do? So we recommend using air cleaners, and we know they're very expensive and can be sometimes hard to find or purchase. And so one thing that I recommend and that I do this personally, is you can make it's very easy to make, doesn't require any skills. You basically just duct tape a furnace filter to a box fan, and so you can build this air cleaner for something like $40. And then you replace the air filters as needed. But they're really effective, they're really safe, they've been tested, and they work well. So that's for yourself and your family and an indoor space. And then it's also really important to look out for your community. And so this is also, air quality can be communicated through these colored flag systems. And these are basically the same colors as used in that AQI. But it's to communicate what to do with your outdoor activities. And when you're making decisions about these, it's important to remember that people might not have access to clean air at home. So we get a lot of questions about, should we cancel school? Should we cancel this activity? And the recommendation is, actually in some cases, the facility that you have might actually be able to provide cleaner air for your occupants than people's home locations, if they even do have a indoor home location. So it's important to think about all members of your community when you're making these decisions. And we have a lot more information about this on a website that we put together with some of the questions that we get frequently asked during wildfire smoke waves. So with that, thank you so much for all your work. Thank you for your attention and showing up here. And there's my email in the chat if you want to reach out to ask anything about this. So I guess, yeah, when the smoke wave hits, feel free to forget about me until then, but send us an email if you have questions when the next smoke wave happens. Thank you so much. And happy to field questions now too.
Alistair, thinking on the other end of the spectrum, as somebody who's thinking about how to help us when we have a smoke event, you must be also talking with people who are thinking about how to manage force to mitigate the production of the smoke. Do you have like your top 3 either colleagues that you like or mitigation strategies for forest management to reduce fire hazards?
Yeah, so with the fire hazard specifically, there's kind of a two-pronged answer. So everyone I talk to who's in this space, basically we are just so far behind on, they literally call it a fire debt. We are so far behind on the amount of fire that needs to happen in these landscapes that we just need more people working in the prescribed burn space. There's a way of conducting these, basically simulating natural fires in a responsible manner. It's going on in New York State. It's going on all over the country. I think it's most vigorously happening on the West Coast, but it's everywhere. This is a really classic landscape management that we need for ecosystem health to then improve human health. And kind of to then the other question, or the other part about how do we protect ourselves and prepare for wildfires, really there's been a lot of research in building codes in the last 2 decades. I think the 2008 building codes it's been borne out in a number of the recent fires. So the California wildfires since 2018 have supported this, as well as I believe the Lahaina wildfires. So I'll start teeing up our transition to Hawaii in a second here. But basically there are ways, including many low-cost ways of maintaining a home and the landscape around a home, that significantly reduce the likelihood of the home burning down when the wildfires come through if you live in a high-risk area. So that's called home hardening and defensible space are the 2 words that I recommend people look up if you're interested in that. And again, California has done so much work on this. They have a lot of, state government there has a lot of public resources about how to do this, including a low-cost retrofit list of how to do this cheaply for yourself. Longer answer than you wanted.
No, I loved it. It was great. It's exactly what I wanted. Uh, I want to ask you, while Scott is teeing up, have you ever heard about the art project from LA called Pigeon Blog?
I've not.
Okay, so in terms of filling in data space, an artist in LA trying to deal with an air quality issue, not fire, but air quality issue, outfitted pigeons with sensors, and they all reported back, and it interpolated between the official sensors. And so
Cool.
just in terms of the One Health working amongst and between species to think about our shared airspace, I just think it might be like a fun side topic about how to interpolate air quality with a multi-species kind of perspective. But I mean, it could also just be a true data gathering, right? I mean, it's a, I don't know, it I'm gonna just put it in the chat just because I think it's so fun and fantastic, but I really appreciate your talk.
Thank you.
This has been a production of Cornell University, on the web at cornell.edu.